Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Doug Beach, Chief Executive Officer of the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, and we are proud members of the City Club. It is my privilege and pleasure here to introduce today's speaker, Jeannine English, President of AARP. Over the past few years, America has been grappling with the changes that affect 76.4 million individuals known as baby boomers. These boomers have a life expectancy of 82 to 85 years, longer than any previous generation. This demographic shift has significant economic and social implications. With this sweeping demographic change, cities across the country have a challenge and an opportunity to make communities improve the quality of life for all their residents. There are few organizations better equipped to lead this effort than AARP. Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, a retired high school principal, founded AARP in 1958. It evolved from the National Teachers Association, which Dr. Andrus had established in 1947 to promote her philosophy of productive aging and in response to the need retired teachers had for health care. Its founding privileges and principles include to promote independence, dignity, and purpose for older persons, to enhance the quality of life for older persons, and to encourage older people to serve and not be served. These remain every bit as important today as they were 57 years ago. Our speaker has spent her career improving the lives of others. Ms. English began her career in California state government as a financial auditor. She then served as Assistant Executive Director for the California Transportation Commission and capped her career with a 10-year term as the Executive Director of the Bipartisan Commission on California State Government Organization and Economy. On June 4, 2014, Ms. English was sworn in as President of AARP after being involved with the organization for 7 years. She first began involvement with AARP as co-founder and partner at a lobbying firm that represented a broad spectrum of clients, including AARP. She became president of AARP California in 2007 and was elected to the National Board of Directors in 2010. Ms. English is a certified public accountant and received her undergraduate degree from California State University and her MBA from Golden Gate University. Ladies and gentlemen, members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please welcome the President of AARP, Jeannine English.
Thank you so much. I am just delighted to be here. The City Club of Cleveland has a long-standing reputation as a citadel of free speech and civic engagement, and I'm just honored to have this opportunity. Ohio is very important to AARP. It's a very important state. We have 1.5 million members here, which makes it our 7th largest state. We also know that Ohio is aging faster than the U.S. average and has one of the biggest 50-plus populations. So we expect our membership to grow. And today, I want to talk about a live issue facing communities all over the country. And it's increasingly urgent. And it's something that we need to think about a whole lot more than we've been. Cleveland is really a perfect place to give this talk because my topic is about transformation. And that's not a reference to LeBron James coming back to the Cavaliers, though I must say that I'm a Kings fan coming from Sacramento, so hopefully we'll be able to give you some competition. Seriously, Cleveland is a place that knows about change and why it's often critical. And you all know this region has reinvented itself as a center of medical innovation and research. You've got a booming downtown. Driving through was just amazing, all the changes. That's a magnet for empty nesters who want to improve the quality of life. The old Rust Belt stereotypes are fading fast. This is a great accomplishment. But what's coming next? Well, it's not a mystery. The fact is that we know that something enormous is on its way. The aging of our population is a towering demographic wave that will reshape every community in this state, our nation, and almost most of the world. This age wave represents a challenge, but importantly, it also represents an opportunity to improve the quality of life for everyone. Since the middle of the 20th century, global life expectancy has increased by 2 decades. In just a few years, there will be more people over the age 65 in the world than children under 5. In the United States, we know 10,000 people are turning 65 every day, and more of them will live into their late 80s, 90s, past 100, maybe a long time past 100, we hope. What does this wave mean for Ohio? I don't want to use too many statistics, but a few numbers tell an incredible story. Today, there are 260,000 Ohio residents age 85 and over. By the middle of this century, that number will more than double to 675,000. Today, just 14% of Ohioans are 65 and over. By 2032, that number jumps to 22%. So the age wave constitutes one of the most remarkable human success stories ever known. The numbers are a tribute to public health, medical advances, education, economic gains over many decades. So they are something to celebrate. We all know that some people view the population aging with alarm. They fear it will hurt the economy or force everyone to pay more for dependent elderly care. I want to share with you a more hopeful message. This demographic wave can be the catalyst to make our communities dramatically better places to live, better for people of all ages. Changes in design, in land use, improvements in services, and other features can have a great payoff for society. But it won't happen by accident. Grasping this opportunity will require innovation and forward thinking from government, the private sector, nonprofits, all of us. That means we are going to need leadership and vision at the local level, because that's where the solutions will have to come from. They're not going to come from Washington, D.C. And right now, it's a critical time because we have a chance to get ahead of the wave, a chance to plan. Cities and towns that adopt successfully will be rewarded with great competitive advantage, economically and in the quality of life for all of their residents. You know, as AARP president, I travel around the country quite a bit, and I have to say candidly that most cities and towns are not taking the steps they need to prepare for the future and the way we're headed. So I am delighted to say that we are seeing some of that crucial leadership right here in Cleveland, which is working to become more age-friendly. And I'd like to go back to that in just a moment. But before I do, I'd like to tell you a little bit about AARP and why we are so committed to that goal of making communities more livable for all residents. Some of you may think of AARP as that group that starts sending you membership information before you turn 50. Some people say before your spouse even knew you were turning 50. We know. And that's true. We all get that letter. Some people don't want it, but we all get that letter. But you may not know that AARP is the largest membership organization in the country. We have almost 38 million members, ages 50 and over. That includes, as I said, more than 1 million people from Ohio. We were created more than 50 years ago, as was just mentioned, by a retired high school principal named Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. And one day, Dr. Andrus came upon a former teacher who was so poor that she was living in a chicken coop. Imagine that. As recently as the middle of the 20th century, it wasn't unusual for elderly people to live in terrible, terrible conditions. At that very moment, Dr. Andrus dedicated her life to the goal of improving the well-being of senior citizens all over America. And she built AARP with those 3 goals that you just heard: dignity, independence, and purpose for older Americans. She believed seniors could contribute a great deal to society as long as they had the opportunity. So today, AARP is active in every state as well as Washington, D.C. We lobby for legislation that we believe is good for consumers and families. And by the way, we don't endorse candidates and we don't contribute campaign funds. We produce a great deal of information for members and the public on issues like healthcare and financial security, and our magazine is the largest in the world. It goes to 22 million households and has 35 million readers. We also try to provide tools to help people plan ahead and thrive as they get older, like our Caregiving Resource Center online and our Social Security calculator. And then anyone that watches TV knows that we endorse certain products, including insurance, that we consider to be a good value for consumers. Our members are diverse. We have, as I said, 38 million of them, but there are certain traits that most of them share. And the single most important trait is that everyone wants to live independently in their communities for as long as they can. So let's face it, nobody wants to be shipped off to an institution or feel like they're a burden on their family or others. People want to live their lives with purpose and meaning. They want to participate in a full range of life with access to transportation that makes it easy to navigate through their community. And they want to contribute. They want their contributions to be valued. And they want to live securely and safely in an environment that helps make that possible. People want to use the gift of longer life to live a fulfilling life. That old-fashioned image of retirement where a person is just sitting in a rocking chair and waiting around, that's not what boomers are looking for. Certainly not as long as their health holds out. People want to keep living. It's not about aging, it's about living. So right now, we think about 76 million baby boomers are disrupting the traditional views of getting old. But Gen Xers and one day the millennials, they'll be no different. At AARP, we call this the age of possibilities. When older people get to keep on living, to strive for possibilities and to stay active and engaged, all society benefits. We all benefit from productivity, know-how, wisdom, and experience of seniors. You know, my dad is 86 years old, and he runs his own walnut orchard that he's been farming ever since he retired. In fact, I just talked to him yesterday, and he's in the middle of harvest, believe it or not. So I'm sure many of you have your own wishes for what's next, what your next journey will be down the road. As individuals, we can do certain things to stay healthy and to stay strong. So we can have those rewarding later years that we all dream of. but society can do more to help people live those later years as productively as possible. And so that brings me back to the message today, which is that critical need to make our communities better places to live for all ages. Communities that offer the right kind of support and have the right kind of features. Everything from transportation and other services to appropriate housing and community design. Make it easier to live active and fulfilling lives as long as possible. At AARP, we refer to this as livability and age friendliness. They entail a great deal: planning, zoning, land use, services, and more. Age friendliness is really a holistic idea. A great deal is involved, and the different aspects work together. You know, the naturalist John Muir put it this way: when we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. So let me give you just a few quick examples of this idea and how it applies to aging successfully. Exercise promotes brain health. Volunteer services to others may increase your longevity. A balanced lifestyle eases stress. Staying engaged socially is vital to mental health as well as well-being. And financial security and access to health care are critical in helping people stay independent. Transportation options help you stay connected and engaged in the world around you. And of course, long-term services and supports help people stay independent. Access to recreation, fresh food, clean air, all contribute to that longevity. The places we live play a huge role in our ability to age and live in a dignified, healthy manner. Age-friendly environment supports people of all ages and all physical abilities, and it helps people stay engaged in their communities and promotes wholesome interactions between the generations and among neighbors, in the workplace, in neighborhoods, and in commercial centers. Being age-friendly improves the quality of life for everyone. So just think about it. A safe, well-maintained street is good not only for an older person who may need a walker, but for a young parent who's pushing a stroller or a student biking to a job after school. It makes life easier for motorists and pedestrians, for joggers, and for commuters. So the goal of making communities age-friendly has become a huge priority for AARP. We have a robust lobbying effort for all kinds of issues and legislation in Washington, but we believe one of the most important ways our organization can touch people's lives is to promote livable communities at the local level. So as part of that, we're putting more and more information online. AARP/Livable Communities is online. And we're doing a lot to encourage local officials and planners to move in that direction. We want local officials to see us as a partner in helping their cities and towns achieve these vital goals. That's why we created the AARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities. This is an effort with the World Health Organization, which has done pioneering work in this area. We started in 2012, and today our network has 64 communities from all across the country, representing 31 million residents. And as you heard earlier, and it's my pleasure to point out that 2 of Ohio's major cities, Cleveland and Columbus, together representing more than 1.2 million people, are new members of our network. And in fact, I am delighted to that we were able to welcome today officially Cleveland as a member of the network. So this is brand new, this is exciting. As part of the network, local governments, community organizations, some of whom are represented here today, AARP volunteers and staff, and the business community all get involved in coming up with innovative ideas to help adapt to a changing population. Another big benefit is that members automatically become part of the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly communities, which includes 200 other forward-thinking cities throughout the world. And the World Health Organization also developed 8 domains of livability, which are kind of a roadmap that we use for communities that want to become more age-friendly. So I'll tell you a little bit about the domains because they really illustrate how a place can follow this vision and make itself into something really, really special. One domain is easy access to outdoor spaces, such as buildings and recreational facilities. And then another is convenient transportation with safe and affordable options for all residents. Appropriate housing choices is the third domain. Housing choices should include models that enable people to age and live in place. And then social participation is big. Social participation, civic engagement are another domain, and this includes activities that foster relationships among different generations. The other domains are inclusiveness of all groups, including programs that promote ethnic and cultural diversity, opportunities for work and volunteer activities for older residents, helping people use technology to stay connected to friends and family, and finally, community health services, including home care, clinics, wellness programs to promote healthy aging. When you think about all those domains, you can see how each city needs to put together its own solutions to meet its own individual needs. I'm a Californian, so I grew up in a freeway culture where the idea was that you just hop in your car and drive anywhere you want to get to. But we've all seen that that idea doesn't always work, especially for people that are getting older. So in California, and I'm sure in Ohio and other states, creating the transportation options needed for an aging society is a big part of making places more livable. And I want to commend Cleveland for showing some true leadership and vision in the area of senior housing. People's housing needs are so varied, but safe and secure housing options enable longtime residents to stay independent. Cleveland has been ahead of the nation in tackling this issue, and I want to highlight one particular need the city is addressing, and that is for intergenerational housing where grandparents are raising their grandchildren. Through the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, 40 one-story homes for low-income grandparents and other seniors with legal custody of that child have been constructed in the city of Cleveland. These homes in Griot Village use the concept of universal design that supports the goal of older adults to age in place, but also makes them especially safe for kids. Cleveland also has another intergenerational housing option, Fairhill Partners Kinship Village. These residences are not aimed at low-income adults, but charge market rates and offer more choices, including easy access to wellness programs and caregiver support groups. These kinds of efforts meet a growing need, so congratulations to Cleveland for this leadership. AARP believes that making communities more age-friendly is not just the right thing to do. We also believe that to be a major economic benefit for the community. And the places that move in that direction are really the winners. They attract and retain more residents. They create business and retail opportunities, and they develop an infrastructure that makes life better for all residents. Property values rise, retailers thrive as more consumers shop in their stores. I'd like to tell you about a report on the impact of older Americans on the broader economy, because the results are just astonishing. Not long ago, AARP commissioned a study by Oxford Economics, which is an established forecasting firm, and it found that Americans age 60 plus are a huge economic engine as consumers, as workers, as financial supporters of their adult children, and as donors to charities. All these contributions add up to what we call the longevity economy, and it's a remarkable engine of growth. The study found that in 2013, older Americans were responsible for $7.1 trillion in U.S. economic activity, which fueled nearly 100 million jobs. It also found that the collective wealth of baby boomers surpasses any generation before them. Boomers outspend other generations by an estimated $400 billion a year. We did state-by-state breakdowns, by the way, so let me tell you about Ohio. The analysis found that Ohio residents age 50 and over contribute 43% of the state's economic activity, including retail spending in healthcare, financial services, and other areas. That's close to half of the economy. The 43% was higher than their actual percentage of the population, by the way, which was 36%. And while I'm on the economy, I'd like to dispel some stereotypes that older consumers don't do a lot of online shopping. Turns out that older consumers not only shop online, but they're buying more and more products and services when they're there. According to Forrester Research, boomers outspend younger adults online 2 to 1 on a per capita basis. From a financial standpoint alone, this is a population that's worth supporting. So maybe it's not a surprise that we're finding more and more interest in making communities age-friendly. And we're starting to see this both on the part of residents and local planners. Last spring, I was in Cleveland for the regional forum of the White House Conference on Aging. And one of the things I talked about was AARP's Livability Index, which is really an exciting tool. The Livability Index rates communities on dozens of different factors, like walkability, housing, safety, and other things people care about. And you can even customize your search if there's special things that you want to compare, like transportation or environment. You just go to aarp.org, search Livability Index. There was a great deal of interest in the tool at the Cleveland Forum and throughout the country. And I think it shows something that we shouldn't be surprised about. People care enormously about the quality of their life. And that doesn't change a bit when you get older. So livability and age-friendliness, which I'm using to mean the same thing, may be starting to catch on. But I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy challenge. Most cities and towns have a long way to go. And that wave of an aging population is heading our way. To really step up and meet the challenge, we need the kind of transformation in the way of communities see themselves, in the way they're planned, designed, and support that they offer their citizens. By turning a community into a place that is truly age-friendly, it requires very fresh thinking. And I want to emphasize something I said before. The only way to achieve that kind of transformation is with a local vision and local leadership. I think a quote from writer Joan Didion fits the situation perfectly. You have to pick the places that you don't walk away from. Making communities more age-friendly is a need we cannot walk away from. And as we move forward, let's make sure we remember that this is an opportunity as well as a challenge. Let's make sure we remember that older people have so much to offer as consumers, as workers, as neighbors, as volunteers, as mentors, as educators, as engaged citizens, as vital and contributing members to their families and communities. By taking steps to make the places we live more age-friendly, we can make the most of that vital contribution. And let's remember one last thing. These efforts are not just for seniors alone. By making our cities and towns more age-friendly, we're making sure our neighborhoods can become even greater places to live for all ages. Thank you very much for having me.
Hello, I'm Dan Moulthrop, Chief Executive here at the City Club, also a proud member. Today, we are enjoying a Friday forum featuring Jeannine English, President of AARP. We encourage you to organize your questions for our speaker now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. And if you're joining us via our radio broadcast or our webcast and would like to tweet a question, please tweet it at the City Club. We welcome all of you here and those joining us via the radio broadcast and web stream provided by our primary media partner, 90.3 WCPN, WVIZ PBS, 104.9 WCLV Idea Stream, or one of the many other radio stations across the region and country that carry City Club programs. Production and distribution of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Be sure to join us next Friday, October 9th, as the City Club welcomes Senator Sherrod Brown for a conversation on international corporate tax code reform. For more information about any of our upcoming and past programs, please visit us online at cityclub.org. Today we welcome guests at tables hosted by AARP Ohio and the Center for Community Solutions. We thank you very much for your support. Our community partner for today's program is the Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging. We thank you very much for your assistance today. And now it's time to return to Ms. English for our traditional City Club Q&A. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding our microphones today are Content Associate Teddy Eisenberg and our Marketing and Outreach Fellow, Faye Walker. We have our first question, please.
Thank you, Ms. English, for being here, for your presentation. We're starting to hear already in the presidential campaigns some comments and even proposals about the future of Social Security, things having to do with funding, retirement age, benefits, contributions, among others. So could you tell us what AARP is saying and doing about the ongoing vitality and stability of Social Security?
Yes, thank you for that question. Social Security is one of, if not the most successful program that we have ever enacted. And right now, 1/3 of everyone that is claiming benefits is out of poverty because of Social Security. We know that. We know that Social Security provides a host of benefits for everyone. And so from that perspective, AARP has always supported and been advocated for Social Security, to sustain Social Security for not just us, but for our children and our grandchildren. We believe it needs to continue indefinitely, and we have not only does our policy council work on all of the different options for Social Security, but our board is very engaged in making sure that Social Security will be protected.
Thank you, Jeannine. Thank you for pointing out that our older citizens still want to be active and productive. As we speak, my dear friend Artie Kornfeld, who brought 500,000 people to Woodstock in 1969, is scouting a location for his Bring Out the Vote concert. As important as legislative and electoral engagement is for us, and now and in the future, do we have any statistics on how many of us are registered to vote and how many actually do vote, and what is the AARP doing to get those statistics up?
Well, thanks for asking that question, because AARP is deeply committed to encouraging, through many different avenues, voter engagement. And we do that. We've done a pilot project last year where we actually had our volunteers in polls, setting up new polls, because one of the problems that many communities have is they don't have enough poll workers to really engage and make sure we have enough polling places. But in addition to that, we have been making sure that we work on a number of legislative fronts to make it easy for people to get engaged in the process. There are a number of states now that actually have voter registration when people get their driver's license. It's a pre-voter registration. It's very simple, and it makes it easier to engage more people. The other thing that we try to do, and we do on a regular basis, is we provide all the facts. We don't support candidates and we don't provide campaign contributions, but we provide facts about issues so that when people are getting inundated with a lot of different campaigns, they can actually look at our information and understand where each candidate is coming on specific issues. And if it's Social Security or if it's Medicare, they can understand where those campaigns are so that they could get engaged at that level. But having more and more people being engaged in the democratic process is something that AARP works on in many of the state offices.
Ms. English, thank you for being here today. In my volunteer world, I serve on the board of the Cleveland Food Bank. And one of the things that we've noticed over the last couple of years, the increasing number of calls we get from older adults who've actually run out of food, who don't have any food in their house. And this increase in senior hunger. In our hunger survey, we found a dramatic increase in hunger among older adults. And then I know our Area Agency on Aging, because of the way funding has worked with the Older Americans Act, delivers hundreds of thousands less meals than they used to. Meanwhile, the population is going up. So are you seeing, is senior hunger an issue you're seeing across the country? And what might we do to sort of help with that?
So AARP, we are very concerned about senior hunger. And in fact, our foundation is focused on senior hunger and isolation. And we know that 6 million seniors go to bed every night hungry. And because of that, we have a number of activities that we're supporting seniors. When we have our national events, we actually provide support to most of the local food banks. But the foundation's work is really tied to senior hunger and isolation issues. And the bulk of that money that comes in goes just for that purpose. So we see it as a huge problem, and that's why we continue to fight for Social Security and to make sure that we live up to the promise of keeping people out of poverty.
Do you find that most of your statistics are the same for immigrant families with older people as they are for people who have been here for a while?
Well, I think that one of the things that one of the reasons that we are working in each community and each state level is because the different populations vary considerably. And so one of the ways that we try to address that is working through our state offices to recognize those needs and raise those needs to a higher level. So there's a lot of flexibility in the states, and we're looking at the specific needs in the states. So I think it varies from state to state.
Ms. English, one of the astonishingly rigid rules of national development is a thing called the demographic transition, which you may know about. It basically says as affluence rises, a whole bunch of things happen. Women become better educated, the size of families fall, the awareness of environmental issues rises, families become more disparate, and it has happened in nation after nation. And I would submit that my generation, my boomer generation, is the first kind of post-demographic, really quite affluent generation. We, I hope, are particularly embracing some of the generous aspects that one can hope for in the demographic transition. We are well taken care of ourselves, and it's time to try to do, as you mentioned, to make the whole society better, not just for the aging population, but for everybody. Do you have a sense that the people you target, you represent, your demographic, is in fact becoming a rather generous, broad-minded group?
Well, one of the things that AARP, we have 38 million members, but what we also believe is that what we do for all. And so our policies are, we think, support the entire family. We believe the support flows both directions. It flows from our generation to our children and our grandchildren, and then it flows back up as well. So I think that what we do at AARP is we are trying to get changes made to support the entire family, and that's our goal.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for speaking about the age-friendly communities, especially in the sense that it is age-friendly for people of all ages. Now, to be an age-friendly community for all ages, it has to have a safe public environment. And I'm thinking about the event in Oregon that just occurred, the mass shootings. I'm thinking about here in Cleveland, where in the past month, 6 children under the ages of 6 were shot by drive-by shootings. Now, the president has expressed his frustration. I heard on TV our mayor last night saying he feels hamstrung by court decisions. I was just wondering, is there anything that AARP can do as part of this age-friendly to push for gun control?
So, yeah, I think that's an interesting question. At this point, AARP has some policy on the size of magazines and for guns, but we have not advocated for gun control just because we don't see, we think it's very important, but we haven't identified it as part of our overall mission. Ours is financial security, health security, and having a better life for yourself. But I think it's a reasonable point, and I think it's something that needs to come from the community.
Thank you for being here. I'm on the board of the American Society on Aging, another membership organization of professionals, and I know they and other leadership groups in aging have been working on the issue of ageism, with a sense it's the last accepted prejudice in our society, whether it's greeting cards or jokes or whatever. So could you comment about the impact of aging in our, ageism in our society?
Well, part of the issue, we do talk about that quite a bit. It is a huge issue. We've had legislative proposals in for several years to have age discrimination at the same bar, legal bar as any other type of discrimination. Congress has not made that change. It was actually a Supreme Court decision that made it very difficult, almost impossible, to prove age discrimination. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem when we talk about seniors that should hopefully take their Social Security benefits later. Well, if you lose your job at age 60 or above, you have a 6% chance of getting a job. And if you lose your job when you're in your 50s, you have a 9% chance. It is a huge problem. And one of the things that we do know is we are going to need this entire workforce. And it's going to need to be people that are younger people that are just out of school, but also it's going to need to be people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s that want to continue working. And so that's an issue that we've been working on, we continue to work on, and we would like to see Congress address it. And we've had legislation proposed for several years.
Thank you for being back in Cleveland. I wanted to return to your theme of community for all ages, which I'm very pleased to see in the theme of a lot of questions here from people. And on behalf of future AARP members, namely the elementary school kids in our country. So where do you think the AARP will come down on the importance of, say, public education in livable communities? It relates to the concern we have in this society about brain health and about the expectations that we have to live our lives with our cognitive abilities relatively intact. How does AARP plan to position itself in relationship to that important topic?
Well, I think that, we continue to strive for continuing to learn throughout life. We do support programs. In fact, we have a program, Experience Corps, which is one of the programs that AARP took over, and Experience Corps is set up to put tutors that are seniors in with students to help them move through the process. We do think that is a big concern, and we're very supportive of education models that help people move forward as they age, starting from very small to very old.
I'm very glad to see you here and speaking about livable communities. One of the points you make in livable communities is the importance of transportation choice, affordable and accessible transportation. There are two studies that were recently completed that speak to that in the state of Ohio and in Northeast Ohio. One was done by the Ohio Department of Transportation that identified the significant funding gap in state support for our 28 or so transit agencies in the state, many of the urban systems like GCRTA in Cleveland, which try to do a good job, but are underfunded in many ways. I think we rank as a state between Mississippi and North or South Dakota, well below our urbanized state compatriots. The other is the Vibrant Neo study, which looked at Northeast Ohio as one of the federal Sustainable Communities grantees. And we identified across the region a desire by people to have more transportation choices, more housing choices, but also more transportation choices. What is AARP doing in the state of Ohio to help advance the argument that supporting transit is good economic development, is essential to our communities and their livability?
Well, I think that the whole age-friendly network sets up a mechanism with AARP, partnering with AARP, to understand the specific concerns in the community and raise those concerns and solve those. And part of that is making sure that everyone is aware of those issues and can come together. I think that is going to be very important in order to kind of make those changes, is to have the community coalesce around those changes, and that's what we see the age-friendly network doing.
Thank you for being here. It's very interesting to know that you are dealing with technology and the aging population. And I'm wondering if there's something like a clearinghouse that you could call to ask some very basic questions, such as accessing social agencies and the telephone company. Because just recently, I tried to get a phone number, and all you get is they will repeat something. It's a machine. They repeat something that wasn't anything near what you were saying, and and then it hangs up, and you continuously you get that. So I'm wondering if Ohio, and this is probably a question for Ohio, if there is a clearinghouse that you could call to get information on how to access these things that happen, every day, very basic kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the person to answer that question, but but I understand what you're saying. It gets very frustrating for people to understand how to work through the entire systems and figure out where the answer is. And I think whether it's a clearinghouse or something online that provides that information is a great idea.
Jeannine, thank you so much for being here today. I wonder if you could talk about the international models for these livable communities and age-friendly communities. Are there places that you and your colleagues are looking to for ideas that you're spreading around the United States?
Well, definitely. I mean, one of the, you look at places like Amsterdam, for instance, and how walkable and how everyone has a bike, and some of the models that they have used. It doesn't mean that there's going to be one community that you'll want to emulate, but I think one of the things that we do with the Age Friendly Network is every year we bring all of our participants from the Age Friendly Network to our offices and in Washington, and everyone shares their best practices and the things that they have learned. And so we do get a lot of that information, and we have people come from other countries, but also identifying some of the successes in the United States has been really rewarding for those individuals and those groups that are in the Age Friendly Network.
Thank you so much for being here today. I just wanted to ask you, and I'm interested because you're dealing with seniors. We are a group of seniors, old seniors. And when I say old seniors, my group is over 80. All of them are over 80. What, if anything, or you have any ideas, can pick somebody's brain to help us try to bring in some younger people that we can either train, help, and show them how to work with AARP people. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, it goes to the community, is safety. We can't get out and around and about because of safety in certain areas. So we need information, education, or whatever about AARP that's going to help our seniors be safe and be able to continue our volunteer work.
Great, that's a great question. Safety, of course, is paramount, and we talk about that in Age Friendly Network, and we think that this will be very important to provide safe communities, more people in the communities, more intergenerational interaction in the communities. So I think that is one of the main goals for the Age Friendly Network. With regard to the volunteers and bringing more volunteers in that may be younger senior volunteers, I think that AARP has broadened our goals to include, in addition to financial security, and in addition to health for all, we're also looking at the self. We call it health, wealth, and self. And what that means is we are addressing the passions that people have at all stages of life and helping people find new jobs, live out their dreams. And that, we believe, will bring in all different types of people at all different age levels in AARP. And I think that will be something that will strengthen the volunteer network of AARP.
Thank you for being here, Jeannine. Listening to all of these questions and so forth reminds me of one of the basic tenets of our life in this great nation, that we are the people. I was particularly interested in the question about the baby boomers who have pushed me through my entire life and are going to continue to do that till the very last breath. Could you speak for a moment to the whole concept of life reimagined and what AARP is doing to offer people the opportunity to actually get involved in the solutions of many of these issues we're talking about?
Exactly, yes. Thank you for that question. So Life Reimagined is a new program for AARP, and the goal is to provide tools for people to use to be able to determine their next step. So their what's next. And that could include, as I mentioned before, a new job, starting a business, travel, whatever you have thought about and had a passion. This provides kind of the tools to figure out where you want to go next. And we do it two different ways. In some states, about I think 22 states, we have it in-person sessions where you talk and go through a series of steps to kind of figure out where you want to go next. The second one, and it's just being launched, I think it's a soft launch at this point, but it's online. And it provides those kinds of tools, and you can kind of move up the ladder of the tool, and you come out with what they call face print, and that is all the things that you're interested in, and it helps you move into your next stage. And we think Life Reimagined will help people really live their fullest life, because you don't need to be stuck where you are. You can go on to the next adventure that you've been waiting for. Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
I guess that was not so subtle a message that was the last question. Today at the City Club, we have been enjoying a forum with Jeannine English, President of AARP. Thank you, Ms. English. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and this forum is now adjourned.